I would definitely say that being able to put your hands on a year's worth of expenses would be valuable. Now, if you're listening to that and you're saying, dude, that's a whole lot of cash to have laying around, that is an important thing to say, but it is the incorrect assumption based on what I'm putting out there, because having access to money is very different than having all of that money in cash. And that speaks to the layering of your savings that I have recommended in previous episodes. Layering meaning having emergency reserves doesn't mean taking all that money and sticking it in a savings account. I would typically recommend, if you are in a position where you have or are building towards these reserves, that you layer it or consider layering it in the following way. It would be beneficial to have access to at least 1 month's reserves in a traditional savings account. And the benefit to having it in that traditional savings account is, number one, you can have immediate access to it. The next benefit is most traditional checking or savings accounts has little to no fees and little to no account minimums. So hopefully you're not paying anything for that account, or if you are, it's something minimal. So you're not worried about a high fee if you don't keep a certain amount of balance. So for those reasons, the flexibility and the immediate access of it would benefit you to keep that 1 month in traditional savings. Now, beyond 1 month, you start to get into the category of having the benefit of using things like a high yield savings account or a money market account. And if you're looking at that and saying, well, I need access to this money, I don't think there are many emergencies that you're going to need more than a month's expenses immediately. You typically, even in the event of an emergency, would have at least 1 to 2 business days in order to get something taken care of. And that's about how long it takes to get money out of a high yield savings account into your checking or your savings account. Now, the benefits to the high yield savings account is you have money that's sitting in cash, but it's getting a higher rate of return. The downsides are there are some accounts out there that have a certain minimum that you have to hit, where they'll say, hey, if you don't keep at least $10,000 in this account, we're going to charge you a certain fee. Or they're going to say, in order to receive the entire interest rate that's stated, you have to have a certain amount in cash. So they may market 4%, but you might have to keep $25,000 in that account to make sure that you hit those totals. I'm going to put a link to the top high yield savings accounts, not based on my opinion, just, peer reviewed month over month reviews of high yield savings accounts. Before you choose one, I would check those metrics, because my preference is to find an account that has no fee and no account minimums, and also no limits on the number of withdrawals and transfers that can be made from that account on a month to month basis. And to me, if you recall that we already have 1 month's expenses set aside in our traditional savings, I would not put more than 2 to 5 months expenses in the high yield savings account. That would get you to the 3 to 6 months, depending on what you're looking for, between the high yield savings and the traditional savings, because anything above that, I would put in a non-qualified brokerage account. We've talked about these. I think they're one of the most underutilized investment tools out there, and they would help establish more of a balance to the structure of your finances. But even if you're the person that's decided that you want 9 to 12 months, you could take those extra months of income or reserves and put them in a moderately invested investment account. The goal is not to shoot for the stars with your emergency reserves money, but you'd have to be in a pretty dire circumstance to get to the point where you're getting to that 9th to 12th month. So you may be able with those later months to take slightly more risk as compared to what you would have in those first 3 to 6 months, where you want the guarantee of knowing that if that money is needed, you're going to have at minimum what you put in that account.